welcome to the Pun Show. I'm your host, Macklen Maclugi. As we all know, PUN now stands for politically urgent and necessary, which means my old format of puns, entertainment, and zaniness, or PEZ, is something I'm dispensing with. Sweet. Yesterday was Sunday, so today must be Pun Day, June 8th. They say a few bad apples spoil the bunch, but we keep spoiling the police by letting the bunch of them murder with impunity. So maybe it's our elected officials who are the bad apples. A bad apple a day keeps doctoring the law this way. Now it's time for my own pontification. Racism is so scary that acknowledging its very existence is too much for some people to handle. But that's no excuse for denying it. That would be like claiming they never remade It because the John Ritter one is your personal threshold for fear. Here it is, your pun of the day. As cities begin to loosen government-imposed curfew, are their white allies more conscientious than Steve Kerr? Few. Now to discuss the responsibilities of raising a black son in America, please welcome father and human Anthony Mark Barrow.
I was just getting over watching the Ahmaud Arbery murder, which came on the back of my son and I just taking up jogging, literally 3 weeks before. And although we live in leafy Sherman Oaks, the street parallel to me that we could run down kind of looks like that leafy, nice street. And then for that to happen out of the blue and just see a man out for a jog, executed, chased down and cornered and executed, that was a lot to deal with. And bear in mind that happened in...
And we chased down and cornered with the expectation that he stop at the behest of two strangers with guns. That's the entitlement on the other end of it also blows my mind.
The whole concept of guns in my mind, I don't get it. And maybe that's because I'm from the UK, but I just, so much so that it's impacted Macklen that my 7-year-old son is not allowed a gun, not even a water pistol. And this is how much impact this thing has had. He was sent a water pistol. Well, it's not even a water pistol, it's a bubble gun. And that has an attachment on it. And literally yesterday, we were in the living room and I forgot that he had it, and he went in the cupboard and he didn't have the attachment on it, and he was just kind of doing that with it. I took it off him. I says, "I'm sorry, that's going in the bin." He went, "Why?" I says, "Because some of certain things you can't play with." And he knows that he's not allowed guns. I haven't told him the reason why. I've just said that we don't like guns. We don't advocate for guns, and I think they're dangerous, and I don't like the message it sends. The reason why I haven't got there yet in terms of Tamir Rice. And I'm thinking things like that. I mean, all boys like to play with guns, but even the psychology of that, a toy that replicates a weapon that kills. And I think when I'm looking down and breaking down the psychology of why America is so lax on guns and it's not a problem, is because they're placed in the hands of kids and used as toys. So it's just been a heavy few weeks dealing with that. And then, unfortunately, what happened to George Floyd, which was broadcast globally.
Yeah. I'm not a father. As a father, what consumes your mind most of the time?
That if I get him, I have a very cute son. And I've said to my wife, at the moment he's cute, but at some point, Macklen, he's going to become a black male. In terms of, I see that in, the area that we live in. He's just, oh, he's cute, and invariably someone will get their hand and rub it through his hair. But at some point, when he grows up, when he gains testosterone, when he gains muscles, he suddenly becomes this threat. He will do. I know that because that's the world we live in. You can make your children as compliant, as respectful, give them an education, teach them right from wrong, to be respectful to law enforcement officers. But it no longer matters, Macklen. It doesn't matter anymore.
No, you can fully comply, and it doesn't matter.
No.
Skin color is the death sentence if
Yeah.
the officer in charge wants it to be. So how do you walk that fine line between
Mm.
preparing him, your son, for adulthood, for the real world, and letting him have a childhood?
Good, good point. My wife and I have spoken about this, and I'm not going to lie, and she'll tell you at times it's reached a contentious issue because she's trying to, as she should, to protect him and nurture him as long as possible. And I had to think, well, that's not my role. That's her role. My role as a man is to prepare him for the world, you know, for the harsh reality of the world. And in all honesty, Macklen, in light of what's happened, I said to her last week that if we don't get the justice that is deserved for him, if the justice is not met on those four officers next year, and the killers of Ahmaud Arbery go free, I'm going home. I'm going back to the UK. I have to, because I can't keep having all of these signs, these warning signs, and ignoring them. And if anything happens, I turn and say, "Well, I didn't know."
Yeah.
There's only so much you can take, and that's not to say that the UK is perfect, but the fact that guns are illegal in the UK and the police primarily and the army carry them, and obviously criminals, but not. I mean, Tom, Dick, or Harry just doesn't just randomly walk around the streets of London or the UK with a gun. Having grown up in a racist environment back in the UK, and thinking about what is the core of where all this comes from in this country, it is about education. It's about what parents are passing down to their children. My son, luckily for us, is an avid reader, and in his library, his expanding library, he has books and characters that look like him. He has characters that are Caucasian, and I suddenly thought last week, I mean, if I want to invoke change, and change starts in the home for me, he should also have books that are representative of the LGBT community, of the Asian community, of the Jewish community, of the Latino community, of every persuasion represented in society. And I said to my wife, we have to go and order these books. So when he reads, he's reading of and looking at people from all different walks of life. So it's not a surprise. And I just think that education and the battle against racism, the first front line is right here.
Parents have their hands full right now. What's
Yeah.
something that you would like to expect, demand, hope for from non-parents? How can non-parents help raise the next generation?
Um, Again, with our white brothers and sisters. In fact, I'm going to take white out of the equation with everyone because it's a global issue now. Engaging in conversation with people of color, finding out about. We need to. I think as a race, as a human race, we need to find out about each other, understand each other's culture, understand each other's religion, have conversations, and also with people who aren't of color, have those difficult conversations around the table in terms of, and I'm sure it happens all the time where, you might get an uncle around for Christmas or Thanksgiving and he's cracking a racist joke. You got to call them out. You've got to be vocal in terms of, as I said, as Black people now, in my opinion, we can't do this by ourselves because we've been shouting and protesting about this for years and years and years, and nothing's changed. I think this mental shackle of slavery, this disease that America has been with us for 400 years. And I honestly believe, Macklen, it's going to take the same amount of time to get rid of it or to dilute it. I really do. This is no quick fix. I believe it starts in education. And when I say education, in terms of the police force, the governments, the politicians, they're not going to change. But if we start to implement within schools, 3 generations time, hopefully there'll be a bigger curriculum of cultural studies. So even if you're from the South or from the North, you are aware that America is a homogenous society and everyone has contributed and not one person has contributed more than another. this feeling of uncomfortability that most people are feeling. I feel it every day, every single day. Um, and that fear of watching George Floyd and thinking, am I going to be next? And that's a real fear.
And non-black people have heard black people say that countless times, but I don't think we can appreciate what that actually literally means, that is
Mm.
such a constant fear. I intellectually understand it, but I can't feel that.
If I feel it now, and it's something that's been physically within me for the last 2 weeks. And I'm going to tell you now, it's the only way I can describe it is: have you ever felt grief, Macklen?
Yes.
You know, it sits right there. That's what it is. It's that feeling of grief. But right about now, no one's died. It's the readiness. As Shakespeare said, the readiness is all. You're just preparing. You're in this state of, because you don't know when your time. You just don't know when it's going to be you. So I just have to keep going back to us educating ourselves. The wonderful thing about us now as a people, as a race, we don't have to blame our environment. We can no longer use our environment as an excuse. These things are a pain, but they're incredibly powerful. No one anymore can use ignorance as an excuse. That doesn't allow you to. That does not allow you to.
Well, that about does it for our show today. We're back in 6 days with an all new episode. And in the meantime, I hope you'll consider donating to Black Visions Collective. I know I personally have donated to every single charity I've plugged on this show. I'm Macklen Maclugie, and I'll leave you with one parting thought. You know, we're all trying to get to a beautiful town called equality. And right now we're stuck in the town that comes prior. And we'll never make it to Equality Town unless we first take a look around and recognize our own privilege.